Hamzah Sheeraz knocks out Edgar Berlanga in emphatic style. Shakur Stevenson puts on a clinic. And we've also got a robbery, maybe even two. Of course, I'm talking about the Ring 3 card in Flushing Meadows in New York. And that's right, boxing fans, welcome back to another edition of Chatter Boxing, the show that kind of sounds like shadow boxing. And of course, we are back here again today to chat boxing. How blessed are we? How are we? I hope everyone's well. We've had a busy boxing-filled weekend. We've got the Usyk-Dubois Undisputed coming up next weekend. We are blessed. We have got a lot of great fights to get into today, so let's get straight into it. First of all, let's chat boxing. Let's chat about the robbery. David Morrell against Imam Khataev, the Cuban, versus the Russian. And I'm a big David Morrell fan, but honestly, this was a robbery. Let's be real. I had Khataev winning it by 1 round on my card. Plus, we get the point deduction for Morrell because of the knockdown. So, I mean, it was a clear Khataev win on my card. So Morrell winning by split decision, I don't understand that. One of the scorecards was especially wide, and I just don't get it, man. I don't know how they can come up with these scores. Even on the DAZN commentary, when they were taking a while with the scorecards and to announce the results, even the commentary were saying, you know, something funny is going on when they take a long time to collect the scorecards. And they were kind of half joking. And I remember hearing that thinking, oh yeah, you know, that cliche, it's always true, but surely it can't be the case tonight. But lo and behold, it was the case tonight. The first 2 rounds, I thought, were Khataev rounds. They were being fought at Khataev's pace. And that surprised me a lot with David Morrell. You could see flashes and glimpses of that Cuban movement. And I'm not talking about the showboating he was doing, but that slick style, the quick movement, almost like dancing around the ring. We caught glimpses of that, whereas it was basically Khataev's pace. And the fact that Khataev could dictate the pace like that kind of surprised me. I was expecting a bit more from Morrell, especially given his good showing against David Benavidez. But one thing I would say is quite early on, you could see David Morrell felt that power and he was not interested in taking that power and feeling more of that power. That was quite apparent. Credit to Khataev, he was investing in the body very early on. He was coming forward. Again, the fight was being fought at his pace. And even after like the first couple rounds, maybe from like round 5 or 4 or 5, we would see Khataev literally boxing with his hands down. His hands were down and he was relying on his quick reflexes, which were very quick. His shoulder slips were very quick and he could slip quickly and come back and attack Morrell to the body. And he was doing a very good job of that and of neutralizing Morrell. And Morrell looked simple. He looked basic for most of the fight. He looked like he couldn't really hurt Khataev. To be fair, of course, as the fight went on throughout the second half of the fight, for example, Morrell had much more success for sure. In the 9th and 10th round, the last 2 rounds, Morrell won those 2 rounds and he was doing damage to Khataev, and it looked like he was getting close to knocking him out, or at least knocking him down. Of course, that never came. So Morrell, he did improve as the fight goes on, but still, you've got to give it to Khataev. Another thing I would say, the 5th round, the knockdown round for Khataev, I thought that Morrell was winning that round, and maybe we were starting to see the tide change in that round, but then, of course, the knockdown came, and that changed everything. It honestly kind of reminded me of Daniel Dubois against AJ, in the sense that it was like an overhand right. AJ, he was going back. In this case, David Morrell was going back, and in both cases, it looked like they just miscalculated the distance, you know, and they got clobbered, and Morrell went down. He looked like he was in trouble from then on. Even in the 6th round, he looked troubled. Like I said, towards the end, he did improve. He did start to impose himself. Khataev as well was getting very tired. The gas tank on him is not that great. I could see from the 7th round, 8th round, he was breathing very hard. People in the arena, shout outs to Anthony who were there, they said they could see him breathing heavy in between rounds. They could also say they could hear the power. They could hear those shots from Khataev ringing around the arena. So he's definitely got the power. Like I said, it was close towards the end, but Khataev was clearly the winner, and I think he should feel very unlucky to not get the win. As for David Morrell, man, I really believe that sometimes boxers elevate themselves to the level of their opponent. And no disrespect to Khataev, but I guess David Morrell underestimated him. I guess he thought, okay, I couldn't handle David Benavidez, but I did very well against David Benavidez, and he probably assumed this guy isn't as good as Benavidez. So I was a bit surprised at the David Morrell that we saw, and Ronnie Shields, his coach in the corner, was going mad at him, especially in the first couple rounds with that showboating for no reason. You know, flashes of Ben Whittaker. Cool, we all love showboating. We all love to show off your skills. But do it when it's warranted. When you're actually winning the fight, don't do it like 2-3 rounds in when you haven't really done much. I felt bad for Roddy Shields, man. He looked furious at some point. Hopefully we can get the rematch. I think it's deserved. And let's see what happens then. Next on the card, we had Alberto Puello versus Subriel Matías, Dominican Republic versus Puerto Rico. And this was a high energy fight from start to finish, literally from the word go. It was the pressure fighter Matías against the back foot fighter Puello. And it was straight into the phone booth for Matías, and he never left. Very close distance, up close fighting. And that's basically all we saw. We saw Matías really putting the pressure on, closing that space. Puello boxing off the back foot, sometimes with success. Both fighters having success. Again, very tough to score these rounds. It really depends what you like. There's not much in them in terms of difference. Both fighters were landing. Both fighters were doing well with their game plan. Matías with the pressure, Puello boxing off the back foot. Matías was just relentless. He's just absolutely suffocating Puello. He's just coming forward no matter what. Coming forward, high energy. There's always that constant pressure of having someone in front of you. It must be a nightmare to deal with, but credits to Puello. He's very good at creating that little distance he can create for himself. You know, he's got his backs to the rope most of the time, but he still find a little bit of space to create distance and let off an uppercut, let off a hook, let off a quick combination. He was doing that constantly. Towards the later rounds, where I thought Puello had more success, I thought Matías started to tire out a little bit towards the end, and Puello started to get more and more success. Also, what he was doing was he was manipulating the distance very well. Puello, he was not only creating a little bit of distance where he could find it in those small pockets of space, but as well, sometimes he was closing the distance very quickly and smothering Matías. And he was doing that very well. Honestly, I was quite impressed with Puello. For me, again, very close, tight fight. I had Puello winning. I think in the last couple of rounds, he just nicked it, and I thought I would give it to Puello by 1, maybe 2 rounds. Matías, though, got the victory. On the commentary, they were saying it's a robbery, daylight robbery. I'm not so sure about robbery because, again, some of those rounds were very, very close. And the Dave Morrell-Khataev fight, I know the scorecards were close, but you could tell, like, Khataev won the majority of those rounds. Whereas in this fight, it's a very close, hard-to-score rounds. So I do think I was surprised that Puello got the loss. I thought he did enough to win. But I wouldn't go so far as calling it like blatant robbery because it is very hard to judge. And it's just a case of what do you like more? Do you like the pressure more or do you like boxing off the back foot more? And I think these judges, they just fancied the pressure, the aggression, the come forward, relentless, suffocating style of Matías. I would definitely love to see a rematch. And I think Puello deserves a rematch. Let's see if Matías is game for a rematch. What do you guys think? Let me know. Next up, we've got Shakur Stevenson versus William Zepeda. Man, what a good card this was. What a stacked night. Again, all action fight, all energy fight from the word go. We have the constant coming forward pressure of William Zepeda, and we have Shakur Stevenson, who was happy to stand and trade. He was happy to take and deflect all of the output that Zepeda was giving and to stand and counter when he could and use his timing to catch Zepeda when he could. It was a great fight. I had it a little bit closer than the judges. I had it 8-4 to Shakur, so maybe 1 round closer than what the judges had. I think one judge had it 2 rounds wider than me. But full credit to both fighters. William Zepeda, I was very impressed with his output. It was absolutely relentless, start to finish, non-stop throwing. And like to keep that kind of pressure, to keep that level of fitness, of stamina is truly impressive. He was connecting on Shakur sometimes, but a lot of those punches were going to the arms. A lot of those punches were just to keep busy and to keep applying that mental pressure on Shakur Stevenson, which I do understand. But I will say, even we heard his corner at times during the first half of the fight, telling Zepeda to keep aiming for the arms, keep aiming for the shoulders, just keep throwing. Yeah, I see the strategy in that, but towards the end of the fight, the last couple rounds, you could see in the replays they were showing in between fights. To me, it seemed like Zepeda was almost too happy to keep hitting Shakur's arms. Like, there were times, especially when they slowed it down, he was just throwing combinations right on Shakur's arms. And of course, I know it's easier said than done to hit Shakur Stevenson, especially the version we saw last night. But I felt he was maybe a bit too happy to go for the arms. And in the last couple rounds, you should maybe try a bit more. I can understand investing in the arms earlier on, Canelo against Callum Smith style, to maybe, cause an impact or hurt or slow the arms down. But towards the end of the fight, especially if you think you're down by 1 or 2 rounds, just maybe, I don't know, try and go for the body. I don't know. Obviously easier said than done. As for Shakur Stevenson, man, this was kind of like a new Shakur Stevenson in a way, because we barely saw that jab. And that jab by Shakur Stevenson, that lightning fast precision jab, that's one of his, well, what he's almost most famous for. And we really didn't see that yesterday. We saw some jabs to the body for sure, but Shakur was happy, especially in the first couple rounds. Shakur was happy to be pinned in the corner and just rely on his quick reflexes, his shoulder rolls, deflecting punches where he can. He was taking some punches, and then he was countering. And what I liked the most about Shakur, whenever he'd countered with combinations, and he would always end his combinations with venom. The last punch of his combination was always the strongest and always the hardest punch. And that's A, very eye-catching, and B, that hurts the opponent, obviously, and C, it's like demoralizing, because I just, if you're Zepeda, I got hit by 3, 4, and then the last one hurt me especially hard. So very impressed with Shakur Stevenson there. And as well, we talked about the output from Zepeda, and I felt there was a lot more output from Zepeda. But again, the damage that Shakur Stevenson was inflicting with his punches was just more. So if you think of it this way, I think like for every 5, 6 punches of Zepeda equaled one of Shakur in terms of damage and the power, at least what we could see. And no doubt the judges would see that too. Of course, output is good, but at the end of the day, it's all about inflicting damage. And I felt that for every 4, 5, 6 punches Zepeda was throwing, Shakur's one punch would inflict as much damage as Zepeda's combination. Also, just the shot selection, the accuracy by Shakur Stevenson, the timing and the speed. There's a difference, of course, between timing and speed. The timing of when to unleash those counter combinations. I was very, very impressed. And like I said, I was impressed with Shakur when he was against the ropes because he was deflecting a lot. But I was most impressed with Shakur when he was in the middle of the ring, standing in the middle of the ring and trading with Zepeda. That's when he had most success, in my opinion, because Zepeda, he was very elusive when he's in the middle of the ring. He was elusive a little bit in the corners, no doubt, but in the middle of the ring, he was very elusive. And I was not expecting to see this level of Shakur Stevenson. In my opinion, Shakur Stevenson unlocked another level last night, and that really, I wouldn't say surprised me because I know he's a very good fighter, but it really impressed me. To see that Shakur Stevenson has such another level to go to was very impressive. And unfortunately, I don't think Tank Davis takes that fight now. I don't see why he would, because the output, the defense, the power, the shot selection, the confidence, everything. Shakur Stevenson showed everything last night against a very, very good opponent. And just think about it, ladies and gentlemen. For Zepeda to have that much output and only win 3 rounds is crazy, and it's testament to Shakur Stevenson. And another thing I will say, I think at round 4 or 5, DAZN, they showed the stats of like punches thrown and punches landed. And I was loving Zepeda's output in the first couple rounds, 4 or 5 rounds. But then they showed the stats, and Zepeda was throwing way more than Shakur, but Shakur had landed more. And that's just very impressive, man. I'm not doing a good job of explaining it, but the fact that there was so much output from Zepeda, yet Shakur, who had much less output, was still landing more, is just, wow. That just speaks volumes about the quality of Shakur Stevenson. I was very, very, very impressed. Where does he go next? Shakur Stevenson needs to target the big dogs now, and whether they will go for him, I'm not sure, but man, it's very exciting times for that weight division. Another thing I'd like to mention, Antonio Tarver said this in the commentary at the end of the fight. We did not see the referee. We did not notice the referee one time the whole fight. I don't think he broke up any clinching. So credits to both fighters. What an excellent, entertaining fight. Finally, to the main event, Edgar Berlanga versus the newly crowned King of New York, Hamzah Sheeraz. This one was personal for me. Let me say that. This one was personal. When I saw Edgar Berlanga in the weigh-in, wearing the Tottenham shirt, in front of Hamzah Sheeraz, giving it this, it became personal for me. Someone should have told Edgar Berlanga, man, Tottenham are not known for winning, especially against the Arsenal. That was your fatal mistake, my friend. I was interested to see how Hamzah Sheeraz would deal with Berlanga's power once he gets hit by Berlanga, similar to how David Morrell kind of tasted Khataev's power in the beginning and just didn't want any of that. I was worried. I was playing in my mind, would that happen to Hamzah Sheeraz? And he did get caught once or twice by Berlanga with what looked like good, powerful shots. But I was reassured. They were connecting with Sheeraz, but I didn't think Sheeraz was too troubled by them. He seemed to take them well. And I remember thinking after a couple of those Berlanga shots landed, I was thinking, okay, Hamzah's got quite a good jaw, to be honest. Also, we saw Hamzah landing a few times on Berlanga, and we kind of saw Berlanga's head going back a few times, and I thought, okay, maybe there's some hope there. Again, I didn't really think we'd get such a devastating knockout, but man, was I proven wrong. That was amazing. The two knockdowns, honestly, the hooks and the uppercuts, and Berlanga's neck was snapping back and his head was all over the place. I thought after the first knockdown, I didn't think he looked too bad. Again, maybe he came up too quick. This is something that I remember I heard Tyson Fury in an interview say a long time ago, that always these young fighters tend to make the mistake of when they get knocked down, they try and come up straight away, and sometimes your legs aren't there. Or even if your legs are there, Fury says, like, take your time. You have 10 seconds. So take your time to come up, stay on one knee, take a few breaths, regain control. Whereas Berlanga, obviously, maybe the embarrassment. He got knocked down, hit his gloves together, stood straight up. Wait, hold on. I forgot to wear the gloves because that was a devastating knockout and some devastating knockdowns, so that we do deserve to wear the gloves. Hamzah Sheeraz does deserve us to wear the gloves for that. So yeah, as I was saying, the first knockdown, Berlanga hit his gloves together, got straight back up. I thought, take a couple seconds, man. Anyways, I thought he was looking okay, got straight back up, got knocked straight back down, and I think in the second knockdown, I think it was all over. Honestly, he was saved by the bell for sure. They even said that in the commentary, but you could see when he was walking back to his corner, he did not look good in there. Even during the 1 minute break when the corner were looking after him, his eyes had that glaze, they were wide open. He did not look good in there. And the writing was on the wall. He came out, Hamzah Sheeraz got the job done ferociously, and he cements his place, I believe, as a rising star in boxing. He definitely made a big name for himself last night to knock out the proverbial king of New York, to knock out the monster, Edgar Berlanga, in his backyard after there was a lot of marketing and a lot of promotion for this fight. So Hamzah Sheeraz is definitely on a trajectory for stardom, let's say. Who next? They were definitely talking about Canelo, and some people will say that this was the master plan all along for Turki Al-Sheikh. Of course, he likes Hamzah Sheeraz. He's got that 3-fight deal with Canelo. We already saw one against William Skull, although some people will tell you that wasn't really a fight. We know number 2 is going to be Canelo against Crawford in September. Will number 3 be against Hamzah Sheeraz at 168? Honestly, I could see it happening. That could be like the proverbial passing of the guard, so to speak. Obviously, Canelo needs to get through the very difficult test that is Terence Crawford. But I could see that happening. And honestly, on the basis of yesterday's performance and on the basis of Canelo's age and all that, and Canelo's recent performances, I think Hamzah Sheeraz could get it done. He's big. He's very big. He's powerful. We know Canelo doesn't really like big, powerful guys. I think he could cause Canelo some trouble. We saw Berlanga. He didn't really cause Canelo trouble, but he went the distance with Canelo. And then Hamzah Sheeraz completely wiped the floor with him yesterday. So A, that doesn't age well for Canelo, doesn't age well whatsoever. And B, I think that gives me reason to believe that Hamzah Sheeraz could take Canelo. To be honest, I wouldn't want him to wait that long because we know Canelo fights in September and in May, only Cinco de Mayo. So I do want to see Hamzah fighting again before May, but I don't know what the plan is for him. I think I wouldn't mind him taking another fight before Canelo, but you don't want to mess up the plans and whatever and whatnot, what have you. Anyways, overall, I'm very happy. We had a great weekend of boxing, from the women's card on the most valuable promotions to last night, the Ring 3. We were very entertained. I really do think the Tom and Jerry warning from Turki Al-Sheikh has made a difference. When someone with that much authority speaks so blatantly about a problem and calls it out and calls it Tom and Jerry, that kind of becomes a meme. We saw Shakur Stevenson wearing the cap and then not totally changing, but really altering his style of fighting to accommodate. I think that's made a good difference for boxing, and I'm excited to see more of it. That being said, let us know what you thought about the weekend's fights in the comments. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. Feel free to chat boxing with me anytime. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, do not forget to keep those hands up.
I know you feel it. 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 I know you feel it.